the dark night of panic. In the middle of the night, Mr. Anxiety woke her up and wouldn't let her go back to sleep. So finally, surrendering to the fact that she was wide awake now, she got online, just happened to notice that I was still there. Middle of the night for her was the end of the day for me, so it's not at all unusual for me to be online at 2 o'clock in the morning as I'm winding down at the end of my day. So she told me what happened. I told her, well, tell him I said hello. He and I are great friends. Negative emotions, my loving friends. I'm Scott Conway, PhD, JD. And we're going to talk today about the personification of emotions. So Mr. Anxiety, who had woken up my friend, my client. Now, I'm not generally available at 2 o'clock in the morning for most people, but there are a tiny handful of particularly special people that have crossed over between the client and the friend category, that if I happen to be awake and you're able to come across me, I would be available for you. And she was one of those. And so we chatted. She said, what do you mean you and he are a great friend? How are you friends with Mr. Anxiety? So I explained. Mr. Anxiety, the personification of fear. Fear is there to keep you alive and protect you from bad things. To do that, Mr. Anxiety has a job. And his job is to constantly keep an eye out for danger and potential danger. He has a job description. He has things to do. Now, he will process as much as he can process while you are asleep. But if he wakes you up in the middle of the night, it's because there's some things he needs your conscious mind for. He needs you awake to check this thing out. He needs you awake to put some logical thinking on it, to put your mind on it, to put your will on it, to make some choices. He might work out a lot of stuff in your subconscious if you have enough solution-oriented principles running on autopilot. So if you are naturally a problem solver, if you are naturally a troubleshooter, and so naturally that you just kind of do it on autopilot, well, then Mr. Anxiety has access to your autopilot, and he can go consult your autopilot to take a look at some of these things and see what automatic answers that autopilot's giving it. But a lot of us have a different autopilot. A lot of us have a worry-oriented autopilot, which is a challenging use of imagination. It's very imaginative sometimes, but probably not the use we want to make of it. So sometimes we are much better at spotting problems, seeing problems, even making up possible problems, than we are at solving problems on that autopilot level. And so consequently, Mr. Anxiety takes a look at it and says, well, I'm not getting any answers there. Let's bump this upstairs. Let me go outside, wake this person up, and let them know we got a problem. We need some help. We need your conscious mind to take a look at this. So that's a lot of stuff. Needs your waking mind. So Mr. Anxiety is looking out for you. Mr. Anxiety is trying to keep you from being blindsided. He's trying to help you navigate a world of threat safely. So, Mr. Anxiety, the personification of fear, has a handful of key things he'll do. He'll show up in your life. He'll pop in for a visit. He says, take a look at what's coming. Take a look at that. Look. What's that over there? Is that coming here? Do we need to do something about that? Something else Mr. Anxiety does for us. So he asks us, what does ready look like? Are we ready for that? What does it look like? Is that us? When we look at ready and we look at us, is that us? Are we ready? And then a third thing, ready or get ready. So Mr. Anxiety might look at it with us, and as it has this kind of internal conversation with us, okay, all right, we're ready. And then Mr. Anxiety can quiet down and let us go on about our business and leave us alone. Or, us and ready don't look the same. They're just not the same. What do we have to do? What do we have to do to get ready? Now that's Mr. Anxiety's job. Mr. Anxiety's job is to show up in your life, keep an eye out on stuff, and go, whoa, take a look at what's coming. Do you see that over there? What does ready look like? If that's coming over here, what does ready look like? Are we okay? Okay, we're ready. Oh, if we're not ready, all right, what do we need to do? And that's his job. If he does his job well, we don't get blindsided. If he does his job well, we're going to notice most threats before they show up and they actually can do damage to us. So Mr. Anxiety is our loving friend. He's there to help us. He's there to point things out so that we can take a look at it and we can exercise some wisdom, we can exercise some logic. We have some lead time, some prep time, that we can be ready for the things that come to us before they show up here. So that's his job. And because he cares about us, he wants to do a good job. I spend most of my life in fear. Sort of. Not in the way you would think. Listen to fear's whisper. Listen to fear's whisper. I have a great relationship with fear because I listen and I take action. So fear and I have this whisper relationship. There's a line out of the movie 300. Talks about this idea of just this little bit of fear that's enough to give you a heightened sense of things. That's the whisper of fear. Like, you see that? Okay, you see that. Oh, what's ready look like? Okay, are we ready? All right, we're as ready as we can. Still probability and outcome. Still a risk, but we know what to do. We need to pay attention. We need to see what we need to see. We need to hear what we need to hear. We have to notice the things. And we take action. And when you live life listening to fear's whisper, that's how you get to live life. Fear shows up and does its job, but with a whisper. A lot of us aren't trained to listen to fear's whisper. So fear has to shout. Fear has to get louder until fear shouts. When fear shouts, there's work to do. When fear shouts, we are probably going to be behind the 8 ball. By the time fear is shut, it's trying to get our attention. If we don't understand what Mr. Anxiety is trying to do, if he taps us on the shoulder, and we feel that little rush of fear, trying to help us brace ourselves, be ready for the thing. But we don't know what it means, and so we ignore it. And the fear has to get a little louder. If I don't understand, the only language fear has is these feelings. If I don't understand the message that fear is giving me, fear can end up shouting at the top of his lungs. Look out! Look at that over there! I don't think we're ready. We need to get ready. Hello! And we don't understand. Or if we understand but we don't listen. Or if we understand and we listen, but we don't take action. All Mr. Anxiety can do is get louder. The powerful metaphor here is the personification of emotions. Thinking of emotions through personification helps us deal more intelligently with them, more at a mind level, less at just a feeling level. It helps us externalize them so that we can work with it as information, as somebody trying to communicate with us. It lets us more effectively look at that communication. There's information. You're trying to tell me something. Which then brings us to the next part. A powerful use of this metaphor, the personification, is that negative emotions are my loving friends. Negative emotions are my loving friends. Mr. Anxiety is a friend of mine. He loves me. He's looking out for me. He is my protector. He is my defender. He is the one that scours the horizon so that nothing blindsides me. It's his job to make sure I don't get stabbed in the back. It's his job to make sure I don't get sucker punched. It's his job to help look out for things because enough things are going to get me anyway. His job is to get that number as small as possible. There's enough stuff that's going to come and is going to do damage. His job is to minimize that damage. So he keeps an eye out for me. He's looking out for me. I assume all negative emotions are there to help me do something about a negative situation. I want to say that again. The negative emotions are there to help me. They're to help me do something. I need to do something in response to that message. At the very least, look at the information about a negative situation, or at least a situation the emotions think might be negative. It might not actually be negative. It might not actually be what they think it is. But that's why they come to me and ask me to check it out. Mr. Anxiety might wake me up, take a look at this thing. You go, okay, all right, I see that thing. So, are we ready to say, okay, well, that's not what it seems like it is. That's really this thing that's going to not be a problem. It's not the same as the things we've had before, so it's not familiar, but it's not a problem. And then Mr. Anxiety, are you sure? Are you sure? Like, yes, I'm sure. We've got that. Okay, cool. Just wanted you to check it out. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. So negative emotions themselves are not bad. They're just there because there's a negative situation. They want to help me deal with that negative situation more effectively. The better I listen, the more quietly they whisper. The less I listen, the louder I make them because the message is important. Negative emotions give information about negative situations. All emotions provide information. Positive emotions tell you to do something again. We call those emotions of duplication. Do that again. It's the quality of life, that depth and richness, the vivid living of life. But do that again. Oh, I like that more. But then there's this other category, negative emotions. Negative emotions tell you there's a negative situation going on here. It's telling you that something needs to change. So we call those emotions of change. It says something must change. Now it's possible that the only thing that needs to change is our point of view on it. That it feels like it's something that it isn't. That often happens when something's new or unfamiliar. It can be new, unfamiliar, exciting, or new, unfamiliar, scary. But a lot of times it's just there to tell you there's a negative thing going on, either going on the outside or going on the inside. And when you understand emotions as a language, it transforms your relationship with your emotions. So negative emotions, emotions of change. So we already know that when you have a negative emotion, it's there to give you information about a negative situation because we want to change negative situations. We at least want to minimize the negative, eliminate it if we can, flip it to a positive if possible. So when we have a negative emotion, when Mr. Anxiety shows up in the middle of the night, something may need to change. And that change may need to be inside of me. Even if I want to change outside of me, I probably need to change the way I handle it to get that different outcome. Because if I keep on doing the thing that keeps resulting in the outcome I don't want, unless some other outside force intervenes, I'm probably going to keep doing at least my part to keep leaning toward that outcome I keep complaining about. But if I can at least make my shift so that my participation in it would quite reasonably lead to more of an outcome I desire, then I change the outcome. And that's what negative emotions are there to do, to give you that information, to let you know there's something not right here. There's something we want different. We need to make some adjustments. Something must change. Well, of course, Mr. Anxiety isn't the only personification of emotion that shows up. Mr. Overwhelm will occasionally show up too. The personification of overwhelm, of course. In fact, very often, Mr. Anxiety shows up first, and if we don't understand the message that Mr. Anxiety is bringing to us, like, look at that. Do we need to do something about that? Okay, what does ready look like? Is that us? And we don't know that. Well, eventually some things are going to start to pile up on us. Sometimes, I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but have you noticed every once in a while, life just pounces on you. So we don't get problems and challenges and things in life that we get to grapple with and face down and overcome that comes to us in a nice, even, steady stream like a school curriculum. Rather, it seems that sometimes, every once in a while, we'll have smooth sailing for a bit, but also every once in a while it just all pounces on us all at once. Mr. Overwhelm shows up in those moments. When things are huge, there's so much going on, too much. And that's his job. His job is to show up when there's too much. And he pops in, whoop, I heard too much, that's me. And his job is to go, all right, let's check our priorities. That's what he's supposed to do. Check our priorities. What do we need to do first? What's important here? Now here's some of the keys in here. So overwhelm as an emotion is announcing that there's too much. The job that Mr. Overwhelm is there to do is to help it not be too much. So one of the first things that he wants to do is help us with our priorities. Take a look at all of the too much. Of the too much, how much of the too much can we just drop? It's not important, doesn't need to be done, period. We can just drop it. It might be a habit, it might be a pattern, it might be a tradition. It really doesn't have to be done. Nothing bad will happen if we just drop it. And then that can make the list smaller. And in particular, when you're kind of in crunch time and you have to focus on what's really important, that's Mr. Overwhelm has done his job. The job is done. The priorities are set, and it's getting done. But also in the priorities, sometimes you can drop the things that are completely expendable, but the rest of the stuff, still too much. Too much. And of the stuff that's still too much, it can prioritize there. Okay, what can someone help with? Are there things in here? It has to happen, and nobody but me can do it. All right, it's going to have to be me. But there might be other stuff in there, someone else can do it. It doesn't have to be me. It can be someone else. And so as you check your priorities, you take a look at these things, you take a look at the too much. Mr. Overwhelm says, all right, let's get going on the stuff that only we can do, and let's get help with the rest. So the too much can be too much to do, the too much can be too much happening to us, or it can be a mix of both. Maybe we really kind of have a lot to do, and a lot's happening to us, and if it's just one or the other, we could be okay, but this ganging up on us thing is not working. And that's where Mr. Overwhelm shows up to do his job. And his job is to help us check the priorities, get rid of the things that we can get rid of. And so you can think about it as A, B, C, D, E. A is top priority, I have to do it. Bad stuff will happen if I don't. Level B priority is I have to do it. Nothing really bad will happen if I don't, but I've got to get to it eventually. Level C stuff is I would like to do it. Nothing bad will happen if I don't. And then E, yes I know I skipped D. E is stuff that you just really ought to not be doing that anyway. And Mr. Overwhelm shows up and there's too much moments. Okay, all the E stuff, that shouldn't even be here. Get rid of the E stuff. All right, that C stuff is great, you know. It's nice to head out, go to the movie. It's nice to be able to binge the Netflix. It's nice to be on social media. No time right now. No energy right now. Got to focus on the things that we got to focus on. And Mr. Overwhelm shows, okay, the A stuff, the B stuff. Okay, we're kind of looking at this stuff like, okay, bad stuff will happen if I don't get this A stuff done, and not as bad stuff will happen if I don't get the B stuff done. Now, what's that D? That D is that delegate stuff. That's the stuff that you can have, or sometimes even should have, somebody else do for you, or at least help you with. And so Mr. Overwhelm is going to show us, okay, all right, we need to put more stuff in that D category. How much help can we get? And let's get the help. Let's take a look at the A stuff and the B stuff. How many of the A and B things, if we had more help, even just temporarily, how much of the A and B stuff could we hand off? And if the stuff we can't just totally hand off, how much of the A and B stuff can somebody help us with? So that's a get going and get help. The job of Mr. Overwhelm. So if that's the job of Mr. Anxiety, hey, what's that over there? Is that coming here? Is that coming here? Okay, what does ready look like about that thing? Okay, is that us? Are we ready? Do we need to get ready? How do we get ready? That's Mr. Anxiety's job. So why do we hide? Mr. Overwhelm's job is, all right, priorities, get going, get help. So why do we tend to freeze? Well, these things are called the self-protection reaction. The self-protection reaction is for moments. The self-protection reaction for fear is to hide. Now, if you think about it as a physical threat, until you can assess a physical threat, your goal is to not be noticed by the threat, because fear is something's coming. Well, if you can freeze so it doesn't see you, or duck behind something so it doesn't know that you're there, until you can assess it, then you can have an intelligent response. Maybe it's not a threat, but until you know that, it's better to hide from it. It's better to have that threat not notice you. But that's supposed to just be for moments. Because we could literally spend our entire lives doing nothing but hiding from every possible threat. Everything that could be a physical threat, everything that could be an emotional threat, everything that could be a relationship threat, everything that could be a financial threat, anything that could be any threat of any sort striking at any aspect of our life. If we let fear dominate, we end up hiding all the time, and Mr. Anxiety ends up having to hang out with us every moment of every day, constantly trying to get us to listen, and all he can do is shout because we won't break out of that self-protection response. Because what we're supposed to do when Mr. Anxiety shows up is, what's that? What's that? Is we have that moment where you're like, all right, don't get noticed by it. Freeze, hide. So that we can take a look at it, see what it is. Is it coming here? Is it something we need to be getting ready for? And if so, what does ready look like? And is that us? And if it's not us, what do we need to do to get ready? Maybe we do need to stay hidden. You look up and it's a T-Rex and you go, whoa! Jurassic World is going on here. Stay hidden. But fortunately, we don't have T-Rexes very often in our life, metaphorically. For the most part, there's things we can do. Overwhelmed self-protection response is to freeze. Just stop. Right where you're at for a moment. And that also has an effective reason. Because when there's too much, for just a moment, you can freeze. Look at it. Prioritize. Get rid of the E's. Have to hold off on all of the C's. Put as many things in that D category as we can. Get help with the A's and the B's. All right, we're ready. We can handle this. Go. Get going. And get all the help that you need. That freeze reflex is supposed to just be for a moment. And every once in a while, just like the hide, every once in a while you have your metaphorical T-Rex and you just really need to hide. That you might have your metaphorical overwhelm where really what you need to do is just stop. Stay stopped. Now that's more often going to be when there's too much happening. And you're trying to stay on top of everything and you really don't need to. And you're kind of beginning to overwhelm yourself. And when that's what's going on, that you're having your metaphorical T-Rex and overwhelm, just freeze. Stay frozen. Just stop. Relax. Take it easy. For those of us who remember the first Jurassic Park movies, the T-Rex can't see you if you don't move. So whether you're hidden or you're frozen, for the moment you're good. But you need to decide what to do from there. It's for the moment. It's not the answer. It's that split-second autopilot reflex that is programmed into us as an automatic reaction that's meant for the moment to allow us to hear and respond to Mr. Anxiety or Mr. Overwhelm. Some other self-protection reactions, because all negative emotions have them. They're built-in autopilot to deal with that something must change message. Give us a chance. They're there to help. They only hurt us if we get stuck in them. Now, by the way, you can think of a self-protection reaction a lot like when you touch a hot stove. If you touch a hot stove, you go, ow! And your hand just jerks all the way back. Well, that protects your hand from being burned. But if I stay way back here, I can't cook on the stove anymore. That's just supposed to be to protect my hand from being burned. Then, once I understand the message of that physical pain and I make sure that I'm okay, I can come back to the stove and I can cook again. I don't hide from the stove forever. There's a saying that says if a cat sits on a hot stove, cat won't sit on the hot stove again. Or a cold one. Because the cat doesn't know better. We should know better. So what are some of these others? Well, hopelessness, or anger. We'll go anger first. Anger is a self-protection reaction. Anger is self-protection reaction is impose rule by force. Because anger shows up with this idea that whatever rules you have, that when they get broken, you're getting angry. That's what anger means. We're going to come to anger shortly. There's this assumption that you chose your rules. The reason you have these rules is you picked them. You decided these were wise rules to have. These were the rules you need to have. And that if you thought that they were bad rules, you would have gotten rid of the rule a long time ago. And so the self-protection reaction just sort of assumes that if you are angry, whatever rule is being broken must be imposed by whatever level of force, manipulation, yelling, screaming, occasionally violence that might be necessary. Because as a response to a threat, anger is a response that wants to destroy the threat. And so when you feel threatened, you're in physical danger and you need to respond to the physical danger in a physical way. Anger is a response that wants you to eliminate the threat. Fear is the response that makes you want to flee the threat. Hide from it. Get away from it. Hopelessness. The self-protection reaction to hopelessness, this wonderfully positive, critically important emotion, is to quit. The self-protection reaction to guilt is to self-punish. The self-protection reaction to hurt is to create space. All emotions responding to negative situations have self-protection reactions because there's something that must change and there's some self-protection reaction connected to the emotion that tells it what particular instant reaction will best protect it. But it's supposed to just be for a moment so that we can have the quick conversation with Mr. Anxiety, with Mr. Overwhelm, so that we can take out action. So I said we'd get to anger. Anger! Anger the barbarian. The personification of anger. Anger is an emotion that is a broken rule. That we all have these internalized rule sets that tells us certain things must happen and other things must not happen. And there must and must not rules. And when those rules get broken, we get angry. So anger the barbarian shows up. Says, "Ah, broken rule, broken rule." And very often go, "Yeah, that person shouldn't be doing that thing." Oh, good rule, good rule. Now, unfortunately for us, in moments of anger, we tend to sometimes get into what I call the justification rationalization trap. So justification, when you're trying to justify something, you're trying to make something sound just. So you're basically trying to show why it is right for you to be angry because you have a right rule and the other person broke the rule, so your rule's right, therefore they're wrong. Your rule's good, therefore they're bad. And so we can get trapped in that justification trap. The rationalization trap is when we try to make our position seem rational. And when we get caught in the rationalization trap, sometimes we come up with occasionally convoluted logic to try to make it seem like we're being completely reasonable. So sometimes anger the barbarian shows up. Ah, broken rule? Yeah, broken rule. Good rule? Hopefully we had the presence of self to pause there for a moment. And to give the rule a moment of consideration. Perhaps at the very least to say, not sure yet, let me think about that. Maybe it is a good rule. Maybe it's a rule you really have chosen. One that you picked up intentionally, one that you're intentionally trying to walk out. Maybe it's not a good rule. Here's a few things about rules. I'm 53 years old. Read a lot of books, listened to a lot of audios, attended a lot of seminars, went to a lot of school, got letters after my name, all that stuff. Had my fair share of life experience. So as an adult human being in his 50s, having lived over half a century, chances are if I intentionally pick a rule and I try to extract wisdom and craft a rule around wisdom, I ought to be able to come up with some pretty sophisticated rules that can effectively handle real life by my age, my education, my background, all of that stuff. So that might be fine if I'm over 50 and I'm developing my own rules on purpose, but what if I still have this rule that's operating, that has been operating since I was a small child? If I built this rule as a small child, if I built this rule when I was 3 or 4 or 5 years old, responding to like whatever was happening to me back at that time, is it possible that if I have a rule that I wrote when I was 4 years old, it might be a really childish rule? What if I have a rule that I came up with that because it was in response to the things going on around me, in response to the things that were happening to me, in response to that, like what my entire life situation was, and I came up with it when I was a teenager? Might it be possible that that rule is going to be a bit immature, that the rule that I wrote when I was 15 years old might not reflect education and life experience and the wisdom of really observing life? What if I wrote a rule in my 20s? Maybe I wrote the rule when I'd already been through college, I'd already been through law school, I might be a brand new lawyer. I've read a lot of books, attended all the classes, I've got the academic knowledge in my head. But I don't have a whole lot of life experience yet. Is it possible that I might come up with a rule that might be reasonably mature, might show some level of education, but might be relatively unsophisticated because I lack the breadth of life experience yet in my early to mid-20s? So when you find these rules, it's not like some self-indictment. I have to protect and defend my rules at all costs. Because if I have childish rules, I want to overwrite those childish rules because they probably were written when I was a child. And immature rules, or even mature but unsophisticated rules, and be in that process of rewriting my rules. So when Anger the Barbarian shows up, broken rule? Good rule? Hopefully I have been answering that good rule question for a while and getting rid of the bad rules and tweaking my rules to make better rules. So that when my rules are being broken more and more often, yes, they're good rules. Why? Because I picked these rules. I determined that these ought to be the rules. I determined that based upon my core operating principle of all principles must be consistently applied, I've looked at the rule in that way. But my even higher core operating principle of reality is more important than anything we believe, that the rules are in harmony with that. These are rules that I think ought to apply back to me too, and that I follow in the other direction. So when Anger the Barbarian shows up, this broken rule? Yep, broken rule. Good rule? Should be a good rule. Want me to enforce it? Anger the Barbarian's ready to use force, ready to use volume, ready to manipulate, ready to hurt someone. Anyone ever say anything when you were angry that you kind of like to think you would never ever have uttered in a moment where you weren't angry? Anger the Barbarian's willing to hurt people. So when Anger the Barbarian shows up at a very first broken rule, well, one of the things we ought to be able to pause is like, actually, I'm not sure. I am angry because I feel the feeling, so this anger is a broken rule, but I'm not entirely sure what actually happened there. So if it directly happened to me right here, right now, I might know the facts. But if someone told me something and I'm angry over what I was told, I don't know. If what I was told is true, there is a broken rule. So before we even get to good rule, I might need to find out what actually happened. Is what I perceived what happened? Now here's another big part on the broken rule thing. Because I might feel the anger based on my interpretation of what it means. Not on what actually happened, not the facts of the event, but what those facts mean to me. And when I get to that good rule question, say, my good rule is people ought to be respectful to me. Okay, that might be a good rule, but what constitutes disrespect? So if I look at broken rules, yeah, they were disrespectful. I might have to say, okay, wait, what's disrespectful to me? That they have a difference of opinion? That they have different politics than me? That they like a different color than me? That they like or don't like a fiction genre that I enjoy? That they don't like a piece of music that I like? I mean, what does it take to be disrespectful? So on that broken rule question, you have to look at your perception, look at your interpretation. That's what anger is there to do. It's like, oh, broken rule? What happened there? So we need to do something about that? It's a good rule. We like that rule. We're going to go with the rule. Stick with the rule. Okay. Want me to enforce it? I'll go enforce it. And every once in a while, it might be a good idea to let anger enforce a rule for you. Because every once in a while, you might try to be diplomatic, and diplomacy doesn't work. So we have a formula that we use when it comes to kind of protecting yourself against people that are being increasingly obnoxious and won't leave you alone. And it's a 3-step formula. Step number 1, be polite. Step number 2, be polite and firm. Step number 3, be polite with a warning. And those are your 3 steps of polite. Once you get past polite, then it's like, all right, then you be impolite. So one of the easiest places to understand it, and that I have the cleanest examples of that on, are men picking up on women that are just overly persistent. You go, okay, if he's a reasonable human being, and then he's not being a total crude barbarian in the way he approaches it, so he's not being an ogre, then you be polite. You turn him down politely. And you let him know that you're not interested. You don't hide behind a boyfriend or a husband. You flat out let him know, no, I'm not interested. You can even be extra polite and say, well, thank you for thinking of me, but I'm not interested. Not at all. But I appreciate the question. And then if he persists, then you be more firm. And so, as much as I appreciate that you find me attractive, I told you the answer's no. The answer's no. And then if he continues to persist, then the next level is polite with the warning. Say, look, I've told you the answer's no. I'm trying to be polite. I'm asking you to be a respectful enough person to honor polite. If you won't honor polite, you're forcing me to be impolite. And then if he pushes it again, now it's time to be impolite. Whatever impolite looks like for the moment. But you keep escalating the resistance. Likewise, there's the self-defense version of it. You start being polite, like, hey, leave him alone. Well, that doesn't work. You be polite in the front and go, excuse me, sir, I said leave him alone. And if it still doesn't work, you can even get in the person's way and say, I said leave him alone. Please don't make me have to take this any further, because I will. And in this particular case of the escalations of 3 steps in, it was one of my female black belts. The guy took a swing at her and she dropped him. 1 block, 2 hits, less than 1 second. Fight's over. He made her be impolite. In that case, impolite ended up being using physical force. Anger the barbarian said, use force, impose rule by force. And that was a moment where, yes, impose rule by force. This guy's being violent. He needs to be stopped. And that's what Anger the Barbarian is there for. It's to protect. It's to stop the bad things from happening. But if I have a whisper relationship with Anger the Barbarian shows up, taps me on the shoulder, like, Scott, broken rule? Might look at, yeah, good rule? Yeah, want me to enforce it? No, I got it. It's okay. And that we just have this very quiet relationship. There's another negative emotion. I have a great relationship with this one. Hopelessness. Coach hopelessness. Coach hopelessness, of course, the personification of hopelessness. Hopelessness has a very specific meaning. Hopelessness means exactly what you're doing, exactly the way you're doing it, will never produce the outcome you desire. That's what hopelessness is for. So hopelessness, the coach shows up and says, hey, what are you trying to do? Is this working? All right, if not, do something different. This is how critical hopelessness is. So like right now where I'm standing, I've got 3 doors out in front of me that I can see from here. If you go to that door over there and you walk up to the door to push and it doesn't open, Coach hopelessness is what are you trying to do? Just trying to get outside. Is this working? No, pushing's not working. All right, do something different. Well, what would you do? Well, you pull. Coach hopelessness says, what are you trying to do? Still trying to get outside. Is this working? Nope, pulling's not working. All right, do something different. And I realized with a push-pull and there's no knobs or latches or anything, it's like, this door must be locked. Do I have options? I go, okay, is there a way to get this door unlocked? Or, maybe go try the other door. See, the other door is locked. Go push, pull. The other door is locked. All right, well, then I have a third door. Push, pull. All right, if all of the doors are locked, are there other doors I can go out of? Is there a way to get the door unlocked? Is there a latch? Is there a lock? Is there a key? Coach hopelessness is there to get us to stop doing the thing that's not going to work. Because if I never have that hopeless impulse where I go push that tells me, oh, that's not working, do something different, then I would be stuck at that door pushing. Be that Far Side cartoon with the gifted kid pushing on the pull door. As you get fixated on, my answer has to be the answer. This has to be the solution. Coach hopelessness shows it. Coach hopelessness is to coach us in how to get our goals. And the big way Coach hopelessness helps us is to get us to stop doing the thing that's not working and do something different. So if I have a whisper relationship with Coach hopelessness, Coach shows up, I'm doing something, Coach says, what are you trying to do? I'm trying to get outside. Is this working? Nope, not working. All right, do something different. And I keep doing something different until I get it figured out. Now, I have a really big Coach hopelessness story that the coach helped me get through. I was on my way to Las Vegas with my team. I'm leading my team. I've got other people with me. And the car dies. Not just like conks out, runs out of gas. It turns out it's dead. Ultimately, on plan L, I'm coming home with a new car. But Coach hopelessness is helping me out here. Coach is going, hey, what are you trying to do? Trying to get to Las Vegas with my team for a convention. All right, is this working? Nope, not working. Car died. All right, I'll do something different. So on to plan B, and then plan C, and then plan D. It took to plan like E or F just to get to Las Vegas. Now, I got my team to Las Vegas. I got them to the resort. I got them checked in. I'm still stuck with my car. I was still miles outside of town when they pulled into Las Vegas. I might even have still been in California when they're in Las Vegas. At one point, I finally made it to the California-Nevada border, and I'm kind of stuck there. And so I'm playing like, G, and I finally get my car into Las Vegas. But then I can't get it to the dealership because the tow truck drives. Like, okay, now I need a new plan. And so my new plan is, okay, how do I get from where my car is to the resort with all my stuff that's still in the car? And then I still have to get my car to the dealership. And so Coach is helping me through. It's like, all right, what are you trying to do? Trying to get this whole transportation thing handled so that we can have the convenience. Okay, this is working. Well, that part worked, but then this part's not working. All right, you got to do something different. And we kept doing different things until finally, at Plan L, I have a car to come home. At Plan M, we're working on how to bridge the financial gap because I pushed the limits of my finances to be able to handle a car to come back. Coach helped me through that. Coach helped me go from Plan A to Plan B to Plan C to Plan D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, finally to L and M. If Coach wasn't there to help me, I could be stuck in Plan A and lamenting Plan A, despondent over Plan A not working. Oh my God, Plan A didn't work. I don't know what to do. Well, Coach is there to help me out. Coach Hopelessness is there to tell me, all right, well, what are you trying to do here? And exactly what I was trying to do would change because there was this bigger picture. Is there were 5 of us that needed to be at this convention. I had my team that needed to get to the resort, and the convention was going to be later. And so I had to get my team into the city, get my team to the resort. I need to get my car to the dealership so I can find out what's wrong with the car and what it'll take to fix it, which turned out to be replace the engine and spend thousands and thousands of dollars to basically rebuild the inside of the car. And keeping in mind, okay, what are the bigger purposes here? We need to get to the convention. We need to get to the seminars. We need to handle the transportation. I need to get my team home. They were going to take my car. I was going to rent one there. And what do I need to do? I ended up renting another car there early so we could drive it around and then gave it to my team to drive home. Then the car that ultimately I bought, I had earlier borrowed from a friend and then later bought it from that friend. So I could get around while I was there because I was staying another 5 days past the team. And I just kept running the plans. Coach is helping me out. Spend a lot of time on what are you trying to do? What are all the moving pieces here? Okay, what's working, what's not working? That's not working, and that's not. The other parts are now fine. All right, you're going to do something different on the parts that aren't working. What are we going to do? And keep coming up with plans. That's what Coach is there to do. Coach me through it. Now the self-protection reaction to hopelessness is to quit. So it would be a natural reflex that when you're trying Plan A is not working, you quit. Why? It's not working. Why am I doing the thing that's not working? What Coach wants me to do is come up with the next plan. So I don't already have a contingency plan, come up with one. But if I get fixated on Plan A and Plan A is not working, my only options are try to do the thing that's not working or quit. And those are my 2 choices. That's all I got. That's what the self-protection reaction is there to do, is to get you to quit doing what doesn't work. But Coach Hopelessness is there to say, okay, so quit doing what's not working. Let's take a look at this and now what is it we're trying to accomplish here? What are we trying to do? Okay, is this working? Is this helping us do what we're trying to do? All right. Not just quit, do something different. Now sometimes you're getting stuck and you have that quit reflex and you go, okay, what are you trying to do? Well, I'm trying to do this thing. All right, is this working? And sometimes you find that it really is working. You just don't feel like it's working. In which case, keep going. So like here's an example. We're talking about financial investments. So if you invest your money and you're making a sliver over 10% a year, your money will double every 7 years. If your goal was to retire at age 70 with $1 million, and you're hitting your 60s and you're just like halfway there after doing this for 40 years, are you succeeding or are you failing? Well, Coach is going to show, what are you trying to do? Trying to retire at 70 with $1 million, Coach. Is this working? No, I only got 7 more years and I'm only halfway there. I was like, all right. But here's the thing. It is working. Because that works on doubling. So like, oh wait. So is this working? Good question. Let me look at, is this working? So 7 years ago, I had $250,000. I doubled it in the last 7 years. All right, got $500,000. I have 7 more years to go. I want to retire at 70 with $1 million. So where should I be 7 years out? I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. So coach stops you and says, what are you trying to do? Retire at $70 million. Is this working? I'm 63 years old. I'm only halfway there. It's like, yeah, but is it working? And when you look at it, you go, oh, wait, yeah, that one is working. Okay, all right, I'm good. I don't need to do something different. I just need to keep on going. Sometimes, though, you look at it, not everything works on doublings like that. So sometimes you look at things like, not really working. All right, well, then do something different. Now, by the way, the different thing you do might be to change your goal. You might decide to not pursue a particular goal or put it off. That's okay. Because when you look at something, if not do something different, it's like maybe you're trying to do too many things at once. Maybe you're biting off more than you can chew. Totally been guilty of that. And coach shows up and says, what are you trying to do? Got my list. So working, not working, can't seem to get to my whole list. All right, maybe you need to do something different. Let's invite Mr. Overwhelm over here. Mr. Overwhelm is going to take a look and say, all right, let's look at the priorities here. Seriously, that whole list? You have to do the whole list? And Coach Overwhelm, or Mr. Overwhelm and Coach Hopelessness will help me craft a new plan. It's very awesome. Because they work together. They're my team. They're my mastermind. We get to work these things out and make stuff happen. Help me know what to change, what to up-level, what to do different. Enormously powerful stuff. Another friend of mine is guilt. Mentor guilt. Guilt is there to mentor me. Mentor guilt, the personification of guilt as my mentor. Guilt has a fairly important and simple job. Help me know when I'm violating my own highest standards and live up to my own highest standards. To be the person I think I am. To level up how I live my life. To stop doing the bad stuff. So mentor guilt shows up, taps me on the shoulders. Scott, what did we do? We did this and this and this. Are we cool with that? Because maybe I am cool with it. Maybe I'm not cool with it. If not, then fix it. So guilt doesn't necessarily mean we did something wrong. Has anyone ever tried to send you on a guilt trip? Very often the whole idea of the guilt trip is you don't already feel guilty because you really don't think you did anything wrong, but they're trying to get you to feel guilty. They're trying to define what you did in a way so that you'll feel bad so that they can manipulate you into doing what they want you to do. Every once in a while, people will send you on a guilt trip because you're guilty and you don't feel it. So mentor guilt shows up, that feeling of guilt shows up, taps you on the shoulder and says, what did we do? What did we actually do? And then we go answer the questions, like, well, what did I do? All right, are we cool with that? Are we cool with what we did? And if we are, then all right, well, then we're cool with it, and then guilt can go away. If we're not cool with it, well, then we should fix it. So I had a friend of mine was doing some stuff I strongly disagreed with and was keeping it secret from someone who I thought really needed to know. And I kind of said a chain of things, said, okay, look, I can't keep sponsoring, putting out my own money for your entertainment time and for comp training if you're not even looking for work. And he was getting married. And ultimately I told him, okay, the pastor who's doing your wedding is a friend of mine. he thinks that you're gainfully employed. I mean, that's what you told him. But since then, you've lost the job and you're not even looking. At some point, like, he needs to know. I mean, he might decide to go ahead with the wedding anyway, but at least he needs to know that you're unemployed and not even looking, and that's been true for over a month. Well, my friend got really mad because he has a rule and tried to send me on the guilt trip. Friends should always back up friends. And I told him, well, I don't think friends should back up friends when friends are doing irresponsible things. I've never done that. But he tried to send me on a guilt trip. The wife tried to send me on a guilt trip. And so, there's a guilt trip. Okay, Scott, what did we do? Like, well, we didn't back up a friend. We cool with that? I said, yeah, the friend was doing some bad stuff. I'm not going to be expending my own resources in support of recreation and expending my own resources to pay for some of his obligations if he's not even trying. All right, so are we cool with that? Yeah, we're cool with that. All right. Guilt goes away. Guilt did his job. But sometimes the mentor shows up and you did something. What did we do? It's like, we said this and we had that backspin in our voice and everything. Like, are we cool with it? No, totally not cool with that. It's like, all right, well then fix it. And then it might owe an apology. In fact, I invented the 4-point apology. Now it's not like I came up with apology as a concept, because there is a Japanese tradition of performing an apology. But for the concrete steps of the 4-point apology, affirm the person, affirm the relationship, express genuine regret, and ask for forgiveness. I invented that because my mentor showed up and said, Scott, what'd we do? Told guilt what we did. So we cool with that? Nope, so not cool with that. All right, well then fix it. And the fix it had to do with give the apology, and now don't do that again. Now we're cool with that. And so if you just fix the stuff, you decide if you're cool with it. If you're cool with it, guilt can go away. If you're not cool with it, then you fix it. Then there's the sage. The sage hurt. The personification of hurt. Hurt is an emotion that simply tells you damage. Physical hurt is telling you physical damage. Emotional hurt is telling you emotional damage. So hurt shows up, the sage shows up like, that did damage. Make it stop. Now the self-protection reaction to hurt is to create space. That's that reflex of the hand coming way further away from the hot stove than it needs to. So we create massive space. So if we created space well, then the sage says, that did damage, make it stop. Good job. The next question the sage has for us is, so how do we recover from that? So like for the hot stove example, we might look and say, like, okay, well we don't need to, we're actually fine. And some is, okay, we might need to do something with it if we got a bit of a burn. And then, of course, the important question, how do we avoid it in the future? So if something is emotionally damaging, and I have very few people that have access to like push my buttons, but it can be done, has been done. And sometimes people won't stop. So sage shows up, say, that did damage. Sometimes in the middle, that is still doing damage. Make it stop. And then I have to do something to make it stop. Now, sometimes Anger the Barbarian will show up. Oh, someone's hurting me. So, good rule? Want me to enforce it? I go, no, this is like, I'm just going to leave the situation. I'm going to log off of social media, or I'm going to leave the party, or I'm going to leave the house. Just not going to get engaged. That if something's doing damage, I'd rather just get out of the way. Don't want Anger the Barbarian to have to use force. So long as the person will let me disengage, we're good. So I don't want to hurt anybody. So I don't want Anger the Barbarian being unleashed on anybody. But then Sage Hurt's next question is, how do we recover from that? So say when I went through a bit of heartbreak, and I'm pretty sure most of us, if we've been in relationships, we've also been through heartbreak. How do we recover from that? And then the next question is, and how do we avoid it in the future? Now, sometimes we need to think about some of these questions. So how do we recover from, say, heartbreak? Well, I had all these ideas and visions connected to the future of what I thought it was going to look like with this particular person or people or team or group or class or leaders. And they're gone. Now, how do we recover from that? Build a new team, it's a possibility. Build a new vision, for sure. Maybe abandon that project that was going to rely on those people. Any number of options. And then how do we avoid it in the future? Well, a trite emotional answer might be, that's just not getting in a relationship with anybody ever again. I'm never teaming up with anybody ever again. I'm never doing a partnership ever again. But hurt as a sage, it's like, what else will that avoid? Because we're just trying to avoid damage. If you can recover from the damage, how damaging was it really? Because if our solution to damage is that we are going to avoid any possibility of future damage, what else are we giving up along the way? And is the things we're giving up going to be even more damaging? So on the heartbreak question, I said, you know what? Worst case scenario, I get in a relationship, I get my heart broken again. I'll get better. Actually, let me correct myself. My worst case scenario is that because I've been hurt before, I refuse to get in any relationship again. I keep love at bay forever. I keep intimacy at bay forever. And I miss love, I miss romance, I miss intimacy, I miss connection. And I spend my life alone because I'm afraid of being hurt in a way I already know I can recover from. That would be the worst case scenario. My sage, hurt, helps me explore these things. Because if I think about the last time I was in love, and think, have I ever been in love before that time? Have I ever had my heart broken before that time? The answer to both of those questions is yes. So what does that mean? That means I recovered. Oh. So then if I become engaged in a love relationship later, and I get my heart broken, I already know from my own history, I will recover. So why would I avoid it, right? My sage helps me with these things. Now, I have mentioned repeatedly that I have a whisper relationship with my loving friends. Mr. Anxiety just shows up and taps me on the shoulder like, hey, Scott, you see that over there? Yeah, I see it. Is that coming here? Yeah, I think that might be coming here. Are we ready? Yep, totally ready. All right, cool. And then Mr. Anxiety can go away. Mr. Overwhelm shows up. That's heard too much stuff, too much. Okay, priorities. Okay, all right, all set on priorities. And okay, you got your action, you got your help. All right, cool. All done. And Mr. Anxiety goes away. Even Anger the Barbarian shows up. Hey, broken rule. So yeah, broken, good rule. Yeah, it's a good rule. Want me to enforce it? It's like, no, it's okay, I got it. All right. And Anger the Barbarian can go away. And the same thing is true with every one of these emotions. So I don't have to get lost in panic and fear and stress. Stress is very often a code word for either fear or overwhelm that we are not handling. For whatever reason, a lot of modern society doesn't like to use the word scared, afraid, the fear words. So we use code words like stressed. Well, why are we stressed? It's because there's stuff coming and we're not ready. Or there's too much and we feel overwhelmed. interesting thing is there's two categories of people that are very upfront with their emotions. That tends to be children. And a lot of it is because they don't have that complex, sophisticated vocabulary to express it differently. And extremely successful people. Is that interesting? Middle class and working class people say, just kind of stressed, a lot of stressful stuff going on. A little bit of anxiety about stuff. The super successful will say that I am scared. This is scary stuff. I'm afraid this whole thing is gonna collapse on me, and we're gonna lose, billions of dollars, and I'm gonna kill a 100-year-old company that I'm helping run. And they're very upfront with how they feel, because being honest with how they feel lets them have this conversation with the emotions, whether they know the language of emotions or not. And so the more we can just recognize what is this feeling, what is the message, then we can have that whisper relationship. But what if I don't have a whisper relationship with, say, hopelessness? Then I get despondency. I can spiral into a depression because I can't break out. Same thing with hurt. I can get lodged into like woundedness, where I'm just in this constant hurt state because I can't ever recover, because all I can do every time I get hurt, I just keep creating space and creating space and creating space just to try to handle the hurt, and I'm never recovering because I'm never getting to that question of making the hurt stop and recover. And how do we not get that kind of hurt again? On guilt, sometimes we get just riddled with guilt. People send us on guilt trips where we get this double bind and triple bind, where there's nothing we can do, where we're not the bad guy somehow. But with all of these things, we have to just follow the steps. Like if guilt shows up and says, what do we do? We cool with that? And if not, then fix it. Well, guilt shows up and says, what do we do? We explain what we did to guilt. And so, well, we cool with that? We say no. But then we don't fix it. Guilt has to stick around. Because guilt will stick around and say, okay, well, if you're not fixing it, I got to stay here to keep an eye on you so you don't do it again. And if I see you about to do it again, I'm going to have to show up really loud and strong. If you actually do it again, I'm going to have to scream like, we're not cool with that. But if you handle it, if you fix it, guilt doesn't have to stick around. Guilt can go home. Wait till he gets called back to work again to come help out his friend, me. So this idea, the personification of emotions, is based upon a concept called the language of emotions, the idea that emotions are a language. There's a lot of ways to learn a lot more about this. Now, roughly in sequence of the investment from least expensive to most expensive, you can learn more about this with The Emotional Genius, the book, either physical book or the Kindle book or PDF. You can learn about more of this with The Language of Emotions. There's a 101A and 101B program, total of 24 lessons, about an hour each. You can learn a lot more about this in the Be Ohana course, which is the first level after Discover Ohana. You could also learn a lot more about this by coaching, either with me directly or in the organization. If you want me directly, that can actually be the more expensive way. You can engage in one of our masterminds where we dive into this, and that's typically going to be more expensive than just getting some coaching from a member of the team. The most expensive one that's not more of an individual one, more of a large group one, is keynote addresses. Group trainings, corporate trainings, organizational trainings, certifications, and stuff up at that level. And then that gets much more expensive. But you have ways to learn this for as little as $10 or $20. And there are people who they'll hang on to the book and the audio handouts, that handouts that go with the audios, just as reference material. They keep going back and looking at when they're dealing with an emotional situation of their own emotion or somebody else's. So Emotional Genius, Language of Emotions, the Be Ohana course, which is part of the whole Ohana series of courses, individual coaching, masterminds, and then any kind of keynote addresses and trainings. So if you're interested in any of those, by all means get hold of me at scott@scottwith1t.com. But Emotional Genius, Language of Emotions, Be Ohana, Coaching Mastermind, and Keynote addresses are all available. I've taught this lesson because even though normally this particular set of lessons would be reserved for my higher end coaching clients and mastermind level work, ultimately I decided that this is too important and too powerful to reserve for the people who are paying the highest price to get it. And that I wanted to make this available and to let you know how to kind of build the undergirding foundations of it. The books, the audios, and the various trainings will help you do that. For this particular program, this is powerful. Your negative emotions are there to help you. They are your loving friends.